Warm good evening to all of you. 25 years at the bar, that has been my journey, practicing in the Supreme Court. But I have to tell you that it started from this city. My journey as a lawyer started from this city. Number one, Air Force Selection Board. When I failed a pilot aptitude test, which I was so determined to crack. I was the daughter of an Air Force officer, I was a solo glider pilot. I thought I could fly, and so that was the end of one dream and the beginning of a new dream, a new journey. But what I really wanted to share with all of you young friends is the story of a bridge that was built on a river called Choluteca. So Choluteca is a river in the Central Americas region of Honduras, notorious for hurricanes, typhoons. So they trusted a Japanese firm to build a really strong, solid bridge. The Japanese firm worked very hard and created a marvel of engineering, the Choluteca Bridge. Got commissioned, I think, in 1998. And then, true to its form, the area, it saw a really tumultuous hurricane. Everything changed. There was lots of heavy winds, water. Something interesting happened. The bridge survived. The strong, solid Choluteca bridge survived. But what happened was very interesting. So what happened was the river changed its course. So the bridge remained, the river changed its course. So now this strong, solid bridge remained a bridge which went nowhere, which connected nothing, which was over nothing. So built to last is probably not the end game. Built to adapt is what really should be the focal point for us. And I have seen that journey as a student of law, somebody who's been practicing law for quarter of a century now. I have seen that, you know, the Indian Constitution, I am a student of Constitution and I am really in love with the Indian Constitution. I feel that there is no other constitution in the world like the Indian Constitution. And if you would have followed some of the the journey of the Indian Constitution, how it started off as a bag of borrowings, the best practices from the world. When India started its journey as a young democratic republic 75 years back, a nation with strong value system, but a new nation, a new democracy, a new republic. Together, all the states, all the princely states came together. So the interpretation of Indian Constitution has followed a very interesting philosophy. And that constitutional philosophy is, while the basic structure is something that is core to the Constitution, Constitution is an organic, dynamic constitution. So the interpretation of Constitution and the morality of Constitution has changed with generations and with times. So in one of the Constitution bench judgments, Supreme Court, one of the judges said that constitutional values are like empty vessels. Every generation has to fill in those empty vessels with its own wisdom. And I will give you an example of how India has done it and how, one of the proclaimed best democracies of the world has done it. You all would have followed the abortion case that happened in America, a judgment that came by the Supreme Court. It was in news a lot for reasons that it should not have been. The draft got leaked and then the judgment came, which was exactly the same. And it took away a jurisprudence from the American citizens, which had stood the test of time for over half a century, which was the Roe versus Wade jurisprudence of women having the right to her bodily integrity, to her body autonomy, as an integral part of her right to life, as an integral part of her right to privacy. And they reversed it by saying what? That the constitution makers, now American Constitution was made almost 230 years back. The constitution makers did not contemplate that privacy would be a fundamental right, that bodily integrity privacy, the manner in which the reproductive rights are allowed to the American citizens, American women, was contemplated in any manner. And the difference in India is adultery. One example I am giving you. Adultery as a section was held unconstitutional 5 years back by Supreme Court. Adultery was a section which criminalized if a man had sexual intercourse with another man's wife without his consent or connivance. Archaic colonial law, that is how it used to be. So, the adultery that was held unconstitutional 5 years back, it came for the challenge for the first time in 1950s. But India was not ready then. Our constitutional courts were not ready then. They held it to be perfectly valid. It came up for challenge in the decades of 60s, 70s, but the Supreme Court found nothing wrong with it. And interestingly, 5 years back, one of the judges on the bench is the same judge whose father held it some 40 years back, 50 years back, that it was constitutional then, but it was unconstitutional now. So that is the difference in approach. Our constitutional ethos are interpreted in an organic, dynamic manner. And yes, change is really the only constant. That is the motto, that is the philosophy, which should be core to our strength, which should be core to our journeys, because that is one journey that is one principle that has held me in good stead, and that I feel is a principle of a journey that I should share with everyone. A couple of more examples I would like to give. You know, women's rights. America celebrated the centenary of its 19th constitutional amendment for 2 years back. Now that 19th constitutional amendment, 100th century of that, was celebrated, gave American women a right to vote. Because before that, American women could not vote. And it took up to the decades of 1950s and 60s till all states in America gave women right to vote. Switzerland gave women right to vote only in the late 70s. And you expect the constitution makers some 230 years ago to have contemplated a society where women could vote, women could be part of the decision making. You know, the earliest women who wanted to be lawyers, when they knocked on the doors of the mighty bar councils, which were all, you know, men's clubs, when they knocked on those doors, they were told that women is not included in the term person. So a person is allowed, but a woman is not allowed. Now that interpretation, and we all know the journey of racial discrimination, the journey of segregation, how segregation was considered to be a valid right. It was all right to have separate schools for people of color and white people. And the constitution makers could have contemplated that. It is absolutely abhorrent to the notion of rule of law that in the 21st century, any constitutional court of any democracy, of course, non-democracies have their own problems, but a democratic country constitutional court to be holding like this, the journeys, whereas our Supreme Court has been holding now women's rights, the right of women to be equal stakeholder in the armed forces. Our IMC Commandant Sahab is here. Women have started there. Girl cadets are being taken into RIMC, Sainik schools, Rashtriya military schools, NDA. Of course, I was representing the government on this occasion in the Supreme Court. But I was part of the journey for equal rights for women officers in the permanent commission cases. One more story. If I ask you what is the strongest explosive you know, I know dynamite. I think most of you would agree. Of course, there are more. So the person who invented dynamite who was the reason, who was a chemist. He was a scientist from Sweden. He was the owner, he was the founder, inventor of some of the most technical and strong military technologies across the world. He got a chance in his life. He got a chance when one of his brothers died, and the newspapers across the world published the front page news with the headline, "The Merchant of Death Dies." It was a wrong obituary, but it allowed him an opportunity to change his life. So this man who invented dynamite, Bofors, companies which were high-tech in military hardware and you know, making weapons of mass destruction many times over for the earth. This wrong obituary changed his life, gave him that wake-up call, and he then donated all of his fortune to charity. And this is a man that we all know as Alfred Nobel. So the Nobel Prize in excellence in all fields, whether it is peace, whether it is languages, whether it is science, mathematics, Nobel Prizes are amongst the world leaders, they are the most reputed. But the legacy of the man was something else, till that obituary change allowed him an occasion to change the journey of his life. So, but that is an opportunity that not many people get. I think it is very important for us to contemplate and think and ask ourselves every once in a while. I don't think this is a question that we need to be asking ourselves only just once in our lives. This is a question that we need to be asking ourselves every once in a while. How would I like my obituary to be? Because happiest people are not people who have means. Happiest people are those who are sharing, who are caring, and who are living it up with everybody together. This earth is not for us, not for one person. We have to stop taking it for granted. This is the only home we have. And if the earth started to think that my role is, I'm the unique blue planet, the only one of its kind in the entire, I don't know for universe, but the solar system for sure, where I'm the only one privileged to have life, what would her existence be without the sun, the source of the energy, without the moon, who is the reason for all of the Earth's oceans, without the right distance at which Earth is placed for it to have the right gravity to retain the atmosphere and yet continue to nurture life. So friends, it is not all us. It cannot be. My only appeal to really all of you is, please enjoy your life, please live up your life, and please adapt with life. Jai Hind.